Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Israel Brief, where we take a look at those top stories. We do it every Monday to Thursday. And you guys, my Israel Brief community from all around the world, do it with me, Rolene Marks. So from Seattle, Washington, to Northern Ireland, to South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, everywhere in between, literally from A to Z, or as some of you might say, Z, we have an incredible community right here. As always, the Israel Brief is brought to you in partnership with these guys, Lay of the Land, and more details about where you can find Lay of the Land coming up in the show. It is day 489 since the 7th of October, since those horrific atrocities committed by Hamas when they invaded parts of southern Israel, slaughtering over 1,200, murdering, mutilating, torturing, raping and kidnapping over 251 people, of which 79 still remain captive. Now, we haven't had any notification about a hostage release this weekend. However, according to the parameters of the ceasefire, this is expected to happen. As always, we don't know the names of the hostages to be released until the day before. So let's get into those top stories, and we begin with news that Israel will be following the United States and withdrawing from the UN Human Rights Council. Now, this was announced by Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar yesterday, who said that the UNHRC emboldens terrorists, protects despots, is anti-Semitic and obsessed with the state of Israel. They have yet to condemn the atrocities of the 7th of October. Earlier today, the foreign minister formally issued Israel's intention to withdraw, and I will read to you a bit from the letter. The letter is addressed to His Excellency Jörg Lauber, President of the Human Rights Council, and it says, Dear Mr. President, following the decision of the President of the United States not to participate in the UN Human Rights Council, I wish to formally inform you that Israel will join the United States and will not participate in the UNHRC. This decision was reached in light of the ongoing and unrelenting institutional bias against Israel in the Human Rights Council, which has been persistent since its inception in 2006. The UN Human Rights Council has traditionally protected serial human rights abusers by allowing them to hide from scrutiny, and instead obsessively demonizes the one democracy in the Middle East, Israel. It has become a political tool and a convenient platform, cynically used to advance certain political aims to bash and delegitimize Israel. Israel in the Council has been subject to over 100 condemnatory resolutions and over 20% of all resolutions ever passed in the Council, more than any against Iran, Cuba, North Korea, and Venezuela combined. This institutionalized discrimination against Israel is enshrined in the infamous Item 7 of the agenda of the HRC. This agenda item is one of a kind. While all other country-related human rights situations around the world are discussed together under the same agenda item, Item 7 is the only permanent agenda that focuses on a single country. And he goes on to say, since the horrific massacre of October the 7th, the Council has employed every platform to spread misinformation and blood libels against Israel. Excellency, under the guise of so-called promotion of human rights, the Council has become an agency of perpetuating the Israel-Palestinian conflict by systematically demonizing the only democratic country in the Middle East. The Council emboldens terrorism and its state sponsor. It has long since relinquished any hope of advancing peace, security, and human rights, and instead contributes day in and day out to polarization of the conflict and destabilizing the region. So, as of today, Israel will no longer be part of the UN Human Rights Council. And also, in addendum, the United States has pulled out of the World Health Organization as has Argentina. Now, opinions continue to circulate around President Trump's bombshell that he intends to take over the Gaza Strip. Now, of course, we've heard a lot of opinions in the last, I would say, 24 or so hours on whether or not this plan is a good plan, not a good plan. As you can imagine from the mainstream media and from many countries, we have heard allegations of ethnic cleansing, of, amongst other things, forced removal, and that this is a harebrained scheme of the president. Or is it? Is it not just the case that after decades of this continuous cycle of violence and terror, and in a war, one party inevitably loses control over land or territory, that this is the inevitable outcome? Well, it's certainly interesting. We have heard from countries like Canada, France and Australia, as well as the United Kingdom, reiterating that they still support a two-state solution. We had Ireland, Spain and Norway earlier, or rather last year, saying that they will recognize a Palestinian state. And now Defense Minister Israel Katz has said, well, maybe those three countries need to take some of the Palestinians until such time as the Gaza Strip is rebuilt and rehabilitated. Both Ireland and Spain have said that this is unhelpful and they will not be doing that. The United Kingdom has said that they will not support any forced removals. Now, what is interesting in President Trump's statement is he doesn't talk about how Palestinians would be removed from the Strip. He alluded to it being voluntary, and he also didn't speak more about how he intends for Palestinians to return to the Strip, just saying that he would create thousands of jobs and places to stay and would want a Gaza Strip that the Middle East could be proud of. Now, according to the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, these plans were kept well under wraps. In fact, Prime Minister Netanyahu is rumored to only have been told minutes before the joint press conference, which could account for his facial expressions looking like he had to, like the rest of us, lift his jaw up from the floor, because this was a plan that nobody had on their bingo card. But in the meantime, the IDF has been given the orders from the defense minister to allow for any Palestinians who want to voluntarily leave the Strip. Also, one of the big issues and why this plan is possibly so effective is that in the logic putting together, it almost mirrors the kind of logic that we had after the Second World War, where the Marshall Plan was implemented, where this policy of de-radicalization of the German people was implemented. And today, countries like Germany and Japan are thriving democracies, and that is the hope for the Gaza Strip. One thing is clear, Israel does not want to take control over the Strip and resettle the Strip. In other news, the UN confirmed today that 10,000 trucks of humanitarian aid had entered the Gaza Strip since the start of the ceasefire. As we have been saying since the 7th of October, Israel's intention is to make sure that aid goes into the Strip. Where there were bottlenecks, where there were issues, was not only a failure of distribution agents to collect the trucks and make sure that the aid was distributed, but also the fact that we had problems with Hamas looters stealing the aid and often reselling it for exorbitant prices. And finally, 4 of the 5 female observance, that's a new word that I just made up, surveillance soldiers have been released from hospital. Liri Albag, Naama Levy, Karina Ariev and Daniela Gilboa were released home. Agam Berger, who of course was released from captivity in the Gaza Strip a few days after them, will stay in a few days more. And Gadi Moses, who was also released from captivity last week. 80-year-old Gadi, the agronomist from Nir Oz, was released as well today. He asked the media please to respect his privacy, and while he recovers, he says he has every intention of going back to work in the agriculture of Nir Oz and rebuilding his beloved kibbutz. So those are our top stories. Let's get on to the audience question, and it comes from Stephen, who says, can Israel take Philippe Lazzarini, that is the head of UNRWA, to the ICC? Excellent question, Stephen. As far as I understand, you can't take individuals or heads of organizations to the ICC, that's the International Criminal Court. You can take the leaders of countries or non-state actors. However, the ICC is an instrument of the United Nations, and it would be very interesting to see how we can deal with taking the head of UNRWA to face some kind of punitive damage as a result of UNRWA's participation in this war. One thing is certain, there have been civil suits filed against UNRWA, and at least 14 members of parliament from different countries, from 14 European countries, signed a letter calling on Antonio Guterres to dissolve UNRWA immediately, given that Emily Damari, a former hostage, gave testimony just last weekend that she was held captive there. So while I don't think that Israel can take Lazzarini to the ICC, there are ways that there can be legal cases taken against him. Now let's get on to the mensch and the moron of the week. And the mensch of the week was pretty much unanimous. Many of you voted President Trump as mensch of the week. I am going to add to that the incredible Gadi Moses, Gadi who has earned the right to put his feet up, but has said that his focus is on rebuilding kibbutz Nir Oz and going back to working in the agriculture, in the fields, in the planning there. To me, that is a real hero, a real mensch of Israel. And the moron of the week goes to South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. Many people have commented that they are enjoying the United States taking a hardline approach against the South African government for many things, land appropriation, the murders of farmers, and of course the foreign policy towards the state of Israel. So those are top stories, guys. Put your thinking caps on for next week's Mensch and Moron, and of course your audience questions. In the meantime, don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online, our Facebook page at Lottle's site. Our YouTube channel is at the Israel Brief. If you like our content, please hit that red subscribe button. We are on LinkedIn at Rolene Marks, on Instagram at Rolene_Marks. And guys, I wish you all a wonderful weekend wherever you are in the world, north, south, A to Z. Shabbat Shalom, and I will see you again on Monday. God bless you all. Bye for now.